North Korean state newspaper Rodong Sinmun on Tuesday denounced Washington for fabricating the UN human rights resolution with the wicked intention of strengthening sanctions and pressure. The report comes following a string of articles released in DPRK state media since last Friday ratcheting up the rhetoric against both the U.S. and South Korea and warning of consequences, in response to the recent adoption of a UN resolution condemning the North Korean human rights situation. The Rodong Sinmun, an organ of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea (WPK), on Tuesday criticized the U.S. for fabricating the resolution, which was passed during a plenary session of the UN General Assembly on December 17. This is a serious political provocation against the dignified DPRK, the Rodong said in a commentary. And it is a vicious move to tarnish the DPRK international image, which can never be condoned. In the Korean-language editorial, the DPRK's most widely circulated newspaper said the U.S. State Department clamored that it should put sustained pressure on North Korea for the improvement of human rights by issuing the statement before the passage of the resolution. Though the Rodong did not provide any further details, the statement is likely to refer to remarks carried by Deputy Spokesperson Robert Palladino on the U.S. designation on 3 high-ranking North Korean officials on December 10. Palladino said Washington remains resolved to press North Korean government to respect human rights, during a regular briefing held on December 11. The Rodong on Tuesday urged the Trump administration to stop provocative and malicious behavior against Pyongyang. It is the trite method used by the U.S. that arbitrarily fabricates the human rights situation of the country, which irritates Washington and misleads public opinion, the Rodong said in the commentary. The good intention of the U.S. and its followers in obstinately clamoring about the non-existent human rights issue of the DPRK is done to broaden the scope of sanctions and pressure and to strengthen them. The Rodong also denounced Seoul, continuing that Pyongyang could not overlook that the South Korean government was engaged in Washington's anti-DPRK racket of slandering the human rights situation, the South Korean authorities' act of chiming in and involving in the impure act of plotting to do harm to the DPRK is the thoughtless and shameful behavior that would tarnish the atmosphere of the improving inter-Korean relations, the newspaper read. The Rodong continued that such behavior incites the rash act of the U.S. and its followers aiming to make confrontation against the DPRK. Other North Korean state media outlets Uriminzokri and Arirang Marie on Tuesday also respectively carried an editorial denouncing Washington of fabricating the UN resolution on human rights and naming 10 countries of particular concern, CPCs, for severe violations of religious freedom including the North. The outer track outlet Uriminzokri called on the U.S. to cultivate the habit to see the world in the right perspective and behave with discernment, in order to avoid a bleak future. Uriminzokri particularly said the U.S. and its followers must pay a dear price for provocative and malicious behaviors against the dignified DPRK. North Korean online media Arirang Marie and DPRK Today respectively on Sunday and Monday also used the same rhetoric in warning of the dear price to be paid. Photo, Joint Inter-Korean Summit Press Corps on Tuesday. Arirang Marie additionally denounced the Moon Jae-in government for sponsoring and taking part in the passage of the UN resolution, describing it as part of their double-dealing attitude. This is the betrayal against the inter-Korean joint declarations that commit to the improvement and development of relations based on mutual respect and trust and concord, Arirang Marie said. The South Korean authorities should ponder on what kind of catastrophic consequence for the inter-Korean relations can be caused by their behavior of adhering to the racket of slandering the DPRK and the move to stifle the country, it continued. Since Friday, the DPRK state-run media continue to target both Washington and Seoul for being vocal on the North Korean human rights issues, after North Korean outlets had published a series of articles denouncing a recent U.S. decision to blacklist the country for human trafficking. Friday saw Marie report that the South Korean government has made ludicrous comments which provoke a counterpart for dialogue joining the North Korean human rights racket of a foreign power. The North Korean outlet asked how the two Koreas can hold talks and improve relations if Seoul denies the dignity and system of their counterpart in the dialogue. Marie explained that inter-Korean ties had deteriorated with the conservative administrations of Lee Myung-bak and Park Geun-hye using the rights issues as a means to create confrontation against the DPRK system and implement anti-reunification policy. The North Korean media also complained that the South Korean government's thoughtless remarks would give conservative parties a cause for opposition to inter-Korean dialogue. Seoul's improper behavior would also instigate the anti-DPRK confrontation scheme of the U.S. hostile forces who are displeased with the flow of the current situation on the Korean peninsula. Min Zokari on Sunday warned that Seoul should contemplate the catastrophic consequence for the inter-Korean relations, urging it not to stick to the scheme to choke off Pyongyang. Edited by Collins Werko, featured image, Korean Central News Agency, KCNA.